Most preppers turn their homes into death traps without even realizing it. That steel door you installed, those reinforced windows, they're actually making you a prime target during collapse scenarios. The 5 mistakes I'm about to reveal could be the difference between surviving or becoming another statistic. Most people think home security means stronger locks and better alarms. Wrong. While you're reinforcing your front door with 3 deadbolts, determined intruders are already planning to walk right through your living room wall with a chainsaw. That's not movie drama, it's reality. Traditional break-ins through doors and windows make up the majority of home invasions, but only because most criminals are lazy opportunists. When society collapses and desperate people get creative, your carefully secured entry points become irrelevant decorations. Here's what nobody talks about. Modern homes are basically cardboard boxes with fancy paint jobs. A motivated attacker doesn't need to pick your lock when they can cut a person-sized hole through your exterior wall in under 10 minutes. Wood frame construction, which covers about 90% of American homes, offers roughly the same resistance as a thick cardboard box. Drywall, it's literally compressed chalk dust held together by paper. Even your sturdy exterior siding won't slow down someone with basic power tools. Then, there's your roof situation. Most residential roofs use half-inch plywood sheathing covered by shingles or tiles. That plywood becomes Swiss cheese against an axe or reciprocating saw. Attackers can drop into your house from above while you're watching your reinforced doors like a hawk. The weird part is that homeowners spend thousands on security systems that monitor doors and windows, then completely ignore the fact that their ceiling is basically a wooden tent. Building materials matter more than most people realize. Brick and stone construction actually resists forced entry attempts. These materials require serious equipment and time to breach, making them impractical for most attackers. But if your home is wrapped in vinyl siding over wood frame construction, you're essentially living inside a breakable shell. Let's not forget about modern conveniences that create massive vulnerabilities. Those beautiful floor-to-ceiling windows, they're basically glass doorways begging for rocks. Sliding glass doors might as well have welcome mats for determined intruders. Even security features like decorative iron bars often mount to that same flimsy wood framing, making them about as useful as jewelry on a scarecrow. Well, what about garages? Most garage doors are thin aluminum or steel that dents under moderate pressure. Garage side doors usually have minimal security since homeowners figure nobody can access them. Meanwhile, the wall between your garage and house interior often has the structural integrity of a bedroom closet door. The construction industry optimizes for cost, not security. Builders use minimum code requirements because stronger materials eat into profit margins. Makes sense, right? But this leaves homeowners with structures that look solid but crumble under real pressure. Your home's resistance to forced entry depends entirely on what it's made from, not how many locks you've installed. Stone and brick laugh at chainsaws. Wood frame construction welcomes them with open arms. But material vulnerabilities are just the beginning of your security problems. Even the strongest fortress becomes useless when your family doesn't know how to defend it properly. Your home defense plan looks perfect on paper. Every entry point covered, every weapon positioned just right. But here's the brutal reality. When chaos hits and your family freezes up, all that planning becomes worthless in seconds. Most families treat home defense like a fire drill they never actually practice. Dad knows where the shotgun is, mom remembers the safe room location, and the kids? Well, they'll figure it out when the time comes, right? Wrong. Dead wrong. When attackers breach your perimeter at 2 a.m., you've got maybe 30 seconds before they're inside. That's not enough time to explain anything to anyone. Your teenager won't magically remember which window leads to the neighbor's yard. Your spouse won't instinctively know whether to grab the kids or the emergency bag first. And the weird part is, people who wouldn't dream of performing surgery without practice think they can execute complex defense maneuvers under extreme stress. Let's not forget how panic actually works. Your heart rate shoots through the roof, fine motor skills disappear, and your brain defaults to whatever you've rehearsed most. If you've never rehearsed anything, your family defaults to confusion and chaos. That's when people get hurt, not just by attackers, but by their own panicked mistakes. Then there's the evacuation route problem. Most families pick their bug-out path using Google Maps during daylight hours. Makes sense, right? But when you're running in the dark, possibly under fire, with adrenaline coursing through your system, That familiar route becomes a maze. Street signs blur together. That obvious left turn disappears. Your perfectly planned escape becomes a deadly trap. Regular drill practice fixes this, but it has to be realistic. Walking through your house casually pointing out positions isn't training, it's wishful thinking. Real practice means waking everyone up at random hours, killing the lights, and moving through your plan while your heart is actually pumping. It means timing everything, finding the problems, and fixing them before they matter. But why stop at just indoor drills? Your family needs to know every exit route like the back of their hand, not just the main one, but the backup routes too. What happens when your primary escape path is blocked? What if the car won't start? These aren't paranoid scenarios. They're predictable complications that destroy unprepared families. The families who survive collapse scenarios aren't necessarily the ones with the best equipment or the strongest doors. They're the ones who've turned their defense plan into muscle memory. When bullets start flying, they move like they've done it 1,000 times before because they have. Well, here's something most people never consider. All that drilling and coordination means nothing if your house itself is still vulnerable in ways you haven't thought about. While you're perfecting your family's response time, attackers might be planning to skip your reinforced doors entirely and come through somewhere completely unexpected. Family coordination sounds smart on paper, but here's what most people get wrong about weak spots in their homes. You can drill your family until they move like Navy SEALs, yet still lose everything because your house has the structural integrity of a cardboard box. Wood frame homes might look solid, but they're basically adult-sized Lincoln logs to anyone with basic tools. A determined intruder doesn't need to pick your fancy deadbolt when they can kick through the wall next to your door. Chainsaws cut through standard wood framing in minutes. Even a basic axe can breach most exterior walls faster than you'd expect. The weird part is how many people spend thousands on security systems while living in homes that offer less protection than a decent camping tent. Windows present another nightmare scenario most folks completely ignore. That standard glass breaks with minimal force, sending sharp fragments everywhere while creating a perfect entry point. Window bars work, but only if they're properly installed and made from quality materials. Cheap bars bend or break under pressure. Security film helps hold glass together when it breaks, but it's not magic enough force, still gets the job done. Then there's the door situation. Most residential doors are jokes when it comes to actual security. Standard hollow core doors might stop your neighbor's curious cat, but they won't slow down anyone serious about getting inside. Even solid doors fail if the frame is weak or the hinges are on the outside where they can be removed. Door reinforcement kits exist, but installing them wrong makes them useless decoration. Garages deserve special attention because they're often the weakest link in home security. Automatic garage door openers can be defeated with simple tools available at any hardware store. Side doors into garages usually have minimal security, since homeowners assume the main garage door protects them. Well, that assumption gets people hurt. Once someone's in your garage, they have time and privacy to work on entering your house proper. Let's not forget about those forgotten spaces that most people never secure. Attics and crawl spaces connect to neighbors or provide access to your main living areas. Many homes have access panels that aren't properly secured or even locked. Basement windows often get ignored during security planning, especially those hidden behind bushes or below ground level. These entry points might require more effort, but they also offer concealment while intruders work. Building materials matter more than people realize. Brick and stone construction naturally resists forced entry better than vinyl siding over wood frame. Metal roofing holds up better than standard shingles when someone tries to cut through from above. But even solid construction fails if you've got weak points like old windows, thin doors, or gaps in your security perimeter. The brutal truth is that most homes weren't built with security as the primary concern. They were built to look good and meet basic building codes. Makes sense, right? Nobody expects their suburban neighborhood to turn into a war zone, but when things go sideways, those design choices become life and death vulnerabilities. Even the most prepared families can't overcome fundamental structural weaknesses in their homes, which leads us to an even bigger problem most people face. The biggest mistake people make when planning home defense? Putting all their eggs in one basket. You know that guy who thinks his shotgun will solve every problem, or the neighbor who believes security cameras are the answer to everything. Single strategy thinking gets people hurt when reality hits differently than expected. Here's what happens when you rely on just one approach. Your fancy alarm system works great until the power goes out for 3 days. That reinforced front door means nothing when someone decides to come through your kid's bedroom window instead. The shotgun you've been bragging about becomes useless if you're not home when trouble arrives. Makes sense, right? Then there's the copycat problem that drives me crazy. People see what worked for someone else and assume it'll work for them too. Your buddy's guard dog strategy might be perfect for his rural property, but what about your apartment complex that doesn't allow pets? That neighbor's safe room works because they live in a single-story ranch, but you're dealing with a 2-story colonial with completely different escape routes and vulnerabilities. The weird part is how people treat home defense like following a recipe. They grab tactics from YouTube videos, forum posts, and survival blogs without considering their unique situation. Someone living in hurricane country needs different preparations than someone in earthquake zones. A single mom with 3 kids faces different challenges than an elderly couple or college roommates. But why do smart people fall into this trap? Because single solutions feel simpler and cheaper. Learning multiple skills takes time. Buying different types of equipment costs money. Training for various scenarios requires effort most people don't want to invest. Well, attackers don't care about your budget or schedule. Let's not forget that threats themselves rarely come in neat, predictable packages. The home invasion that starts as a burglary might turn into something worse. The peaceful protest 3 blocks away could become a riot heading your direction. Power outages can trigger desperate behavior you never saw coming. Static defense plans crumble when creative, desperate people start thinking outside the box. Consider this reality check. Professional criminals case targets specifically looking for predictable security patterns. They notice when you only lock the front door but leave the back slider unlocked. They see motion lights that don't cover blind spots. They recognize homeowners who rely too heavily on technology instead of developing actual awareness and skills. Smart defense means layering different strategies that complement each other. Physical barriers buy you time to implement electronic alerts. Those alerts give you space to use whatever defensive tools make sense for the specific situation. Multiple escape routes prevent you from getting trapped when Plan A fails. Backup plans for your backup plans. And the truth most people avoid? You can't defend what you haven't properly learned to use. Having the best security system means nothing if you panic and forget the codes. Owning defensive weapons becomes dangerous liability without regular training and muscle memory. The question becomes whether you're building a complete defense or just checking boxes, because when everything falls apart, creative problems require flexible solutions, and that's exactly where most training programs completely miss the mark. Here's the brutal truth about self-defense training that nobody wants to admit. Most people buy a gun, watch a YouTube video, and think they're ready for the apocalypse. Wrong, dead wrong, literally. Your hands will shake. Your heart will pound so hard you'll think it might explode. That perfect stance you practiced once in your garage, gone. The muscle memory you thought you had vanished faster than toilet paper in March 2020. Dry fire practice isn't just helpful, it's life or death preparation. Every single day, serious defenders spend 10 minutes clicking an unloaded weapon at targets around their house. Sounds boring? Well, boring beats bleeding out because you couldn't hit a barn door when it mattered. But here's where people really mess up. They think owning a gun makes them dangerous to bad guys. Reality check. It makes you dangerous to yourself and your family if you haven't trained properly. Statistics show untrained gun owners are more likely to shoot themselves or loved ones than actual threats. Ouch. Let's not forget the weekend warriors who hit the range twice a year and call themselves prepared. That's like taking 2 swimming lessons and thinking you can survive a tsunami. Your brain doesn't work the same way under extreme stress. Fine motor skills disappear, vision narrows, time distorts. Then, there's the equipment obsession trap. People spend thousands on tactical gear, but 0 hours learning how to use it effectively. You know what's scarier than facing a home invader? Facing one while fumbling with equipment you barely understand in pitch-black darkness. Training isn't just about shooting straight either. When do you shoot? When don't you? How do you move through your house without creating fatal funnels? What if there are multiple attackers? What if your primary weapon jams or runs empty? And the weird part is, most people spend more time learning to parallel park than learning to defend their lives. They'll practice golf swings for hours but won't spend 20 minutes a week on combat drills. Makes sense, right? Physical training matters too. You can't defend anything if you're gasping for air after climbing one flight of stairs. Cardiovascular fitness, basic strength, and flexibility could mean the difference between escape and capture. Your fancy tactical setup won't help if your body gives out first. Well, here's another uncomfortable truth. Stress affects everyone differently. Some people freeze completely, others become reckless. A few rare individuals actually perform better under pressure, but they're usually the ones who've trained extensively under realistic conditions. The biggest mistake? Thinking you'll figure it out when the time comes. Your brain doesn't suddenly develop new neural pathways during a crisis. It relies on whatever patterns you've already established through repetition. Regular training keeps your skills sharp, but more importantly, it builds confidence. Confidence affects decision-making speed, which often determines who walks away from a dangerous encounter. But even the best trained defender can face serious legal consequences if they don't understand the laws governing self-defense in their area. You've defended your home successfully. The threat is neutralized. Your family is safe. But here's where most people make their biggest mistake. They think the hard part is over. The truth? Your next few moves could land you in prison faster than the intruder you just stopped. First mistake happens within minutes. People forget to call 911, or they delay it because they're shaken up. Bad move. Really bad move. The longer you wait, the worse it looks to investigators. They start wondering why you took so long to report a legitimate self-defense situation. Makes sense, right? If someone broke into your house and you had to defend yourself, wouldn't calling for help be your first instinct? Then there's the evidence handling disaster. People start cleaning up blood, moving weapons, or fixing the scene to look better. Stop right there. Every single thing you touch becomes evidence tampering. That broken door? Leave it. The scattered glass? Don't sweep it. Your firearm? Set it down safely and don't touch it again until police arrive. One guy in Texas got charged with evidence tampering because he moved his shotgun from the hallway to his bedroom. The prosecutor argued he was trying to make the shooting look more justified. But the biggest legal landmine, talking to police without a lawyer present. Adrenaline makes people chatty. They want to explain everything, justify their actions, tell their side of the story. Here's what actually happens. You accidentally contradict yourself 3 times, forget important details, or say something that sounds suspicious to detectives who weren't there. Your first words to responding officers should be simple. I was forced to defend myself. I will cooperate fully, but I need to speak with my attorney first. That's it. Don't elaborate. Don't explain. Don't try to be helpful beyond basic facts like the intruder came through that window or my family is upstairs and safe. And the weird part is, people worry that asking for a lawyer makes them look guilty. Wrong. Smart people always get legal representation for serious situations. Guilty people usually can't stop talking because they're trying too hard to seem innocent. Let's not forget communication with family during this chaos. Kids might be scared and say confusing things to police. Your spouse might remember details differently due to stress. Everyone needs to understand the same basic message. Cooperate with police. Provide basic facts about safety and medical needs, but detailed statements happen with legal counsel present. Well, beyond the immediate legal concerns, you've got evidence preservation, insurance claims, and potential civil lawsuits from the intruder's family to consider. Yes, that actually happens. Criminals sue homeowners all the time. Communication also means having your lawyer's contact information easily accessible, not buried in your phone contacts. Write it down, keep it visible. When police are in your living room and your hands are shaking, you don't want to be scrolling through your phone trying to remember if you saved the number under attorney or lawyer or their actual name. However, even perfect legal handling won't matter if you've made critical errors in securing your supplies and resources. You've got your training down. Your family knows the plan. Your defenses are solid. But here's what trips up most people when society starts falling apart. They completely forget about protecting their actual supplies. All that preparation becomes worthless when someone else walks away with your gear. Weapons and ammunition need secure storage that goes way beyond keeping them away from kids. During a collapse, desperate people turn into resourceful thieves. They'll check obvious spots first: bedroom closets, basements, garages. Smart preppers create hidden caches in multiple locations. The old all eggs in one basket problem becomes deadly serious when those eggs include your family's survival tools. Then, there's the visibility problem that gets families robbed blind. Food stockpiles stacked near windows practically send engraved invitations to looters. Medical supplies left on kitchen counters tell everyone exactly what you have. Water barrels sitting in plain sight turn your home into a shopping center for the unprepared. Makes sense, right? You wouldn't leave cash scattered around during normal times, but the backup systems create an even bigger headache. Power grids fail during social breakdowns. Water systems stop working. Your primary supplies mean nothing if you can't access them or keep them fresh. Generators need fuel. Water filtration requires power or manual operation. Medical equipment might need electricity. The chain of dependencies runs deeper than most people think. Well, here's where it gets interesting. Successful supply security uses decentralization as the main strategy. Hiding everything in your basement puts all resources at risk from a single breach. Professional survivalists spread critical supplies across different locations. Some gear stays in the house, other supplies get buried in waterproof containers around the property. Emergency caches go in separate buildings or trusted locations away from home. And the weird part is how many families forget about operational security during resupply runs. Going to stores repeatedly for just one more thing creates patterns that observant criminals notice. Bringing home obvious survival gear in broad daylight advertises your preparation level. Smart shoppers vary their routes, timing, and even disguise purchases by mixing survival items with normal household goods. Let's not forget the psychological aspect that breaks down supply discipline. Stress makes people careless with resources. Family members start leaving important gear lying around. Security protocols get skipped because just this once won't matter. Small lapses compound into major vulnerabilities when everyone's guard drops simultaneously. The replacement reality hits hardest during actual collapse scenarios. Supplies lost to theft rarely get replaced because normal supply chains disappear. That stolen medical kit can't be picked up at the local pharmacy anymore. Those taken weapons won't get replaced through normal channels. Every item becomes irreplaceable, which makes initial security absolutely critical. Resource theft often happens from people you never suspect. Neighbors who seemed friendly before might become desperate. Family friends could turn opportunistic. Even extended family members might justify taking your supplies during their own emergencies. The next critical error compounds the supply vulnerability by creating an even more dangerous isolation problem that most families never see coming. Your fancy security system means nothing if your neighbor 3 houses down is watching armed strangers case your property and doesn't bother telling you. That's the brutal reality most preppers refuse to face. They build fortress homes while completely ignoring the most valuable defense asset available: other people. Here's what actually happens during neighborhood breakdowns. The families who survive aren't necessarily the ones with the biggest gun collections or the thickest walls. They're the ones whose neighbors actually give a damn about warning them when trouble shows up. Makes sense, right? You can't watch every angle of your property 24/7, but Mrs. Johnson across the street has perfect view of your driveway from her kitchen window. Community intelligence beats any surveillance camera you can buy. Cameras show you what already happened. Neighbors tell you what's about to happen. When old Pete calls to say 3 guys with crowbars just walked into the abandoned house behind yours, that's actionable intelligence worth more than gold. Your Ring doorbell would catch them breaking into your shed, but Pete's phone call stops them before they get there. The weird part is how many prepared families actively avoid their neighbors. They think operational security means telling nobody anything, ever. Wrong move entirely. You don't need to show them your gun safe or discuss your food storage, but you absolutely need basic communication channels established before everything falls apart. During Hurricane Katrina, the neighborhoods that stayed secure weren't the ones with individual fortress houses. They were the ones where neighbors coordinated watches, shared information, and backed each other up. 3 houses working together beat 1 house standing alone every single time, even if that solo house has better equipment. Local warning networks move faster than any news source you'll find online. When the power grid fails, your internet goes down, but verbal communication keeps flowing. The construction worker who lives 2 blocks over might know about road closures before police dispatch does. The nurse down the street gets hospital gossip about incoming casualties hours before it hits social media. But building these relationships takes time you can't recover during an emergency. You can't knock on doors during a crisis asking strangers to watch your back. Trust develops through normal interactions over months and years. Weekly conversations about garbage pickup schedules today become life-saving coordination during collapse scenarios tomorrow. Then, there's the psychological factor most people miss entirely. Isolated families make easier targets because criminals assume nobody will respond to calls for help. Houses surrounded by active, communicating neighbors represent higher risk for attackers. They know noise will bring backup, and backup means complications they'd rather avoid. Smart criminals scout neighborhoods for weeks before making moves. They identify which houses get visitors, which neighbors talk to each other, and which properties sit isolated. Your perfect security setup becomes meaningless if they already know you're dealing with problems alone. Well, community networking handles the intelligence and early warning side of home defense perfectly, but even the best neighborhood watch can't help you if legal trouble comes knocking after you've successfully defended your family.